Hey, it's Dr. Nick and Mike, Sebastian, known as the Dream Team. We just had a great time on the show with Kim. We talked all about vibrations and quantum and dreams and signs and intuition, and look forward to more.
Hey, yeah, it was really fun because it was a similar vibration, and I loved Kim's story because it was kind of a reflection of our stories. So it gave me insight to what we were doing and what's going on. So it was most of all fun and inspiring. Yes.
Welcome to the show. I am Kim Sorrell. I'm an author, a speaker, a host. I do a lot of things in life, but the thing that brings me the most joy is meeting new fabulous people like you are going to be introduced to today. I am thrilled to have Nick and Mike Sebastian here today. You're going to learn so much. I've learned so much by reading their stuff and watching what they do and how in tune they are with their gut, with their intuition, with the Holy Spirit. You're going to love it. The stories that you're going to hear and the wisdom they're going to drop is going to be great. So welcome here and welcome Nick and Mike. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Kim. Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
I love the name of your show, Love Is, because
yes,
that's what I've always felt. I'm at in the whole universe. That's all there is love. Everything else is an addendum of that. So
I couldn't agree more, and I think of it too as our only job, right?
Yes.
We're supposed to love God, love ourselves, and
Yes.
love everybody else. It's really our only job. Just love, no judgment. We're not supposed to judge. Don't judge, just love.
You know, it's so cool, Kim. You're so on point. I was just telling a client yesterday, I said the whole reason we're on the planet is to learn to give and receive divine love. That's the whole reason we're all here. And so we go through our lessons, but it's going to get us there one way or the other. Some people have to go kicking and screaming to get there, and some people are already there. But that is the whole goal, is love is.
Right.
You know, it's interesting because every morning, one exercise when I get up and I look in the mirror, I actually hug myself and I say, I love you. And I'm talking to soul, not to this Mikey Mike. No. And look in my eyes. It reminds me that love is the connection inwardly to everything I want outwardly. It's all connected. So it helps a lot for me anyway.
Yeah, I love that practice. I love that. I've got a friend, Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I don't know if you know who he is, but he recommends that you look yourself in the mirror every day and you look yourself in the eye and you say, I love you. And you do it every day. And it's amazing what happens in like a 30-day period when you're doing it every day. And it can feel funny at first and almost foolish in a way, like, oh, I love you. It kind of can feel strange. But the reality is we don't love ourselves like we should. We don't value what God has created. And we need to. Because if you don't, how can you fully love others if you're not loving who you're created to be? And so I love that. The hugging. I'm going to add the hugging because that's really good. Yeah. That is so good. So I love your love story, how you guys got together and how it was divinely meant to be. So I'd love for you to talk about it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so interesting, the story. So we'll just jump in. We've been together 30 years now, but when I was 24, well, let me back up. Before we met, I was dating someone for a long time and we were serious. And this is before cell phones this is house phones and beepers in the 90s, and dating a guy, and it was New Year's Eve. And he said, I'll pick you up in a few hours. And I said, okay, great. New Year's Eve came and went, and I never heard from him. I never saw the guy again. Even till this day, we've never spoken. Mm-hmm. I was deeply distraught in despair. And I mean, crying, oh, what happened? Is he dead? 4 days goes by, and I have a dream. And it leads into our story. That's why I'm sharing this. I have a dream, and in the dream, and I didn't know dreams meant anything, but in the dream, he's with his 2 kids, and they're walking away from me. So when I woke up, I knew instantly what had happened and the message. The message was he got back with his family and was headed in another direction. So it brought me into full knowingness, which is our whole mission, which is why we started the nonprofit of Divine Guidance Institute, Dream, Signs, Intuition, and Sound, to teach people how to know about anything you're wondering about. Whether should I move to Texas, or is my deceased grandmother in heaven? Is she okay? Or, is my boyfriend cheating? Any type of question, you can receive an answer of divine guidance through these methods. And so that happened. And I was completely like, wow, thank you so much. Holy Spirit wanted me to not be distraught, wanted to give me the answer. And then I could go on my merry way. 1 month later, college starts, and I'm in Michael's class, sociology. The first day of class, in walks the teacher, which is Michael. And the minute he walked in, the inner started screaming, that inner voice. You're going to marry him, soulmate, you have a mission together. All of these things downloaded. I was 24 at the time, and he was twice my age, mind you. I thought, holy moly. I didn't say anything to him, obviously. I ran home and told my roommate, Heather. I said, Heather, I'm going to marry this guy in a heartbeat. She thought I was nuts. And then I remained quiet. I told no one anything. The following semester passes, and I see him in the hallway. And another guy is asking me out. At the same moment, I see Michael. And I said, I got to go. And I ran down the hallway yelling, Sebastian. That's our last name. Mm-hmm. And then I got to him and I said, hey, let's do lunch. And so he kind of looked. So we did lunch the next day, dinner the next night. Then we were engaged in 90 days and married in 9 months. Okay. So on our second night, the dinner date, Michael's walking me back to the car. My license plate, the letters were KRW. Those are the initials of his first wife. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I had the gut feeling, he had the sign. And mind you, Kim, let me also say, before we met and when we met and started dating, Michael was dating 5 other girls simultaneously, 5 other people, trying to find the one. He had just been blindsided by a divorce. So you see, I was ghosted. He was blindsided. And I'll let you take over.
I was looking for diversity at the time. All right. That's what
he was practicing diversity back then.
I think they call that a player, if I'm not mistaken.
It's like, yo, player. It's like that. Right? Yeah. My side of the story, real quick. Teaching college in Texas. So I'm a sociologist. So I was teaching sociology, and I had a real clear dream one night, a lucid dream. And when I woke up from the dream, I actually journaled it, wrote the whole thing down. Good thing, because I always forget the dreams, given it next day or so. Anyway, in the dream, there was a girl who was a personal trainer, actually, and her name was Nicole, had brown eyes, blonde hair, looks just like this Nicole, but they were a total, complete stranger. And in the dream, she was actually wearing a purple outfit. So I put the journal away, flash forward 3 years down the way. I'm still teaching sociology at this college. Who walks into my classroom and sits in the front row? The dream girl, Nicole. And she ends up actually wearing a purple outfit. And what's really interesting was I did it. 3 years had passed. I did not remember the dream. So I started getting feelings of deja vu, already having seen. And a deja vu is really, in many cases, a forgotten dream, something that's occurred, we've already done, we've experienced inwardly, and we do it outwardly. So I started getting deja vus. And it's really interesting because after the class is over and Nicole yells at me in the hallway, hey, I thought we should go to lunch. I thought she wanted a letter of reference for graduate school. Pretty common. Mm-hmm. So when we got to the deli, I said, so what can I do for you? And she said, well, I thought we would date. Excuse me? Whoa. And it was like, that's when I realized, though, inwardly, I knew my life was going to take a right turn and go a different direction. And it was some time before, a while before, after so many deja vus, I actually found that dream journal and read the whole dream, and it had her name, the purple outfit. She's studying to be a personal trainer, which she was in Austin, Texas. It was like just rolled one thing after another. So it was really prophetic. And that's kind of what kicked off with that background that led us to start eventually a nonprofit and teach people about dreams, signs, intuition, how they're all connected, and how really they open up the future to us. They're always there. We're just not awake and aware. And it's tapping into that divine guidance, as we call it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I have to tell you my story with my husband, because I met him at a bowling alley. I thought he was, I for whatever reason, we're at this bowling alley. I was 17 years old, senior in high school, May of my senior year in high school. Never going to get married, going to be the first woman president. Not looking for anything, right? But then I met him, didn't really talk to him. A couple weeks later, he called and said he was going to have some people over at his place that night. He was 4 years older than I am. And did I want to come? And I had to act all coy. Well, let me see my schedule. Yeah, I guess I can come, whatever. I hung up the phone, and I had been sitting at the kitchen table with my mom. I hung up the phone and I said, that's the man I'm going to marry.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that something? And so then I went to the party. He ended up driving me home. We saw each other the next day, the next day, the next day. 10 days later, I asked him to marry me, and he said yes. And we got married a little less than a year later, and we're really happily married. Like, he was such a great guy. We had a great relationship for a month shy of 29 years before he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. This is like a similar.
I know. We have the same story.
I asked him out 30 years, 29 years. I mean,
I know, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
even you got married in less than a year, and so did we. Like, the parallels are crazy.
Yeah, and I bet you like each other still.
Yes. Yeah, we always say we're two peas in a pod, and we're the only one in the pod.
Well, that's okay. Nobody else has to be there. It's good to have your own unique pod. I like that.
It's kind of interesting because with your story, and our story, the connection there is knowingness. In other words, though, it's a knowingness that comes in because people, we have lots of clients with all kinds of different things we work with, from, anxiety and depression, suicidal ideation to other things. But the point is, they all ask, well, how do I know? How do I know whether to go in this direction? How do I know whether to do this? How do I know how to sidestep adversity? Should I take the new job? Is this person I'm dating online for real? Are they lying to me? How do I know? And with our stories, your story and our story, it was a type of knowingness that comes in. And that is what we realized way back when we first met, that we wanted to transmit and share with other people how to know, because we found out there's literally a system or a formula, you could call it, for how to know. And when we realize what it is and start paying attention and using it, things open up. They've been there the whole time. It's kind of like, how many times have you walked to your refrigerator and go, wow, I guess we're out of that. And then you open the door again and there it is. It was like right in front. Was it invisible or did I not see it? That's kind of like knowingness. It kind of comes in suddenly,
Yeah, it's so interesting. Because I think you're so right. Like, I think we all have this ability to have a knowing, but we don't listen to it. We don't necessarily recognize it or listen to it. My dad always said, before he made any decision, he was one of the greatest businessmen, the greatest businessman I've ever known. And he always said he had to check with his gut. He had to listen to his gut before he made a decision. And if it didn't feel right, he didn't do it. And if it felt good, then he did it. And I think that there's so many things that you're going to tell us today that you're going to kind of simplify for people, and let people know that this is for everybody. Like, this isn't just if you are spiritual, if you are in tune, if you are whatever, this is for everybody on the planet. Everybody can listen and know and have a knowing. So drop some gold on us.
It's funny. I was just talking to a client earlier, and I said, even we were talking about that very thing. And I said, even the atheist dreams every night. Okay. It's like, we're all built the same way, and it's on autopilot 24/7, dreams, signs, and intuition. Dreams while we're sleeping, even if we don't remember, everyone dreams every night. And then signs, everyone's witnessed a coincidence at least once, and everyone's had a gut feeling at least once that they recognize. And so based upon that data, you can say that it's worldwide. It's prevalent with all humans, that this is how we function. Most people, they don't receive the messages because they're not aware. And no one tracks the data to see that it's real, that it's legit. We've been tracking the data now for almost 30 years, our own dream, signs, and intuition, and countless clients. As a psychologist, I work with clients forever. So as part of our methodology or modality is we incorporate the two together. It's not like, well, mental health therapy, blah, blah, blah. We do the whole Scooby-Doo all in one. So we've been tracking this data and these stories for decades. And only through tracking it do you really see, well, I had this gut feeling, and then this outcome occurred, and it was on the money. And then I had this dream, and then it played out prophetically, a year later. And then I had So only through awareness and tracking your data, then you come into full knowingness that these things are real and valid. And then you get confident, like building the bicep, to incorporate and use the data for your life. You use the right and left brain, then you take it to the next level for confirmation.
And people need that right and left brain, like Nick mentioned, because they feel that otherwise it's somehow mumbo jumbo, voodoo, who knows what it is, but it's really the imaginative part, the right side of your brain, dream, signs, and intuition, as opposed to the data, collecting the data and the numbers and looking at it. But we really need both. And that's what really helps our clients, because when they start tracking it, taking and journaling it, writing it down, they go back and go, wow, I had that dream. Now I'm looking a week later, it was prophetic. It was showing me, and that gut feeling was right on the money. I didn't know at the time. I thought maybe it was my imagination. Well, it is your imagination, bro. That's what we tell them, but they don't trust it. And as they start tracking that, what you would call scientific data. And, we've gone down the road of, I'm a sociologist, science. I use the science of it. It's interesting because you mentioned your dad and the gut feeling. Years ago, for the university, they did a study. I went out and talked to the head CEOs in the United States, just a handful of them. And one of the questions are, when everything's on the table, man, your whole company, all the money, when all the chips are down, how do you make that final decision? And keep it short, cut to the chase. I want to know. Every single one of them said, well, my teams do all the data and the research, but when it's all down on the table, I go with my gut. That's it. They all said it either feels right or it doesn't. And one of them even said, do not tell my board members that, because they'll throw me out. But that's how I make my final decision. Everyone's it's interesting that they're hesitant. But if you go back historically, all the great societies and all the leaders, from Alexander the Great to Julius Caesar, they all had people who advised them on their dreams and on the signs, and using the right brain, the imagination, to look at things and say, well, based on what you told me, this is probably what's going to happen. But we've lost all that in the last couple thousand years. We're starting to come back into it now, slowly, like Carl Jung studied signs, spent his whole life with signs. But slowly we're coming back into realizing that is knowingness. That really shows us the way. So we need to open ourselves to that. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's so interesting, because it is so true. Like, they have somebody on their staff, that they can call on, that they're the seer, they're the knower, whatever. And then if something goes wrong, they're beheaded, or whatever, right? But it's certainly lots of history for it. And I don't, it's throughout the Bible. Like God wants us to know things, he wants to communicate with us, not just have a one-way conversation, always be asking for things or praying for things, but actually listening and receiving, right? But you have to be open to listening. You have to, first of all, know that God wants to talk to you, but secondly, know how to listen, because there's something to it. So what do you tell people about that?
Well,
vibrations, one word, go ahead.
We've got our best technique. Oh, and it's based on science and history and religion all in one. We've actually found the Holy Grail, if you will, and we call it the Holy Grail. We also call it one magic word and one-step therapy and one-step solution, depending on the audience. But the word is Hue, H-U, Hue. I'm going to give you a demo, then we'll back into it. It simply goes like this. Hue, hue. You can inhale, and on the exhale, just say hue, hue. So, cool thing, you can do it out loud or silent, eyes open or closed. You can do it while you're doing the dishes or while you're sitting in a business meeting. And it truly works for insomnia, stress, anxiety, depression, anger, decision-making, connecting with your higher self, connecting with Holy Spirit, to decision-making, and on and on. So that's why we call it the Holy Grail and the panacea, if you will. Historically, we found this word hue through a spiritual path called Eckankar. Okay? Eckankar, E-C-K-A-N-K-A-R. And then we said, let's do the research on this. And this is decades ago as well. So we start doing the research on this word. The word comes from the word hue comes from the word human. Kim, the word human actually means God-man, human. It's in the Oxford English Dictionary and in 14 different religions and their sacred book. The Masons recognize the word hue, Kabbalah, Quran, the Bible, when it was written in the
Hebrew.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the Hebrew version. In Egypt, thousands of years ago, they used to hew at the Sphinx from dusk until dawn as a society. So this word hue, it's rampant. And, we've got a lot of data to support it, which we'll get into shortly. But, people have even said, well, what about the Om? Om, right? Well, the hue gets you there quicker. It's quicker. It's the shortcut. The Om goes to the mental plane, so it handles the emotions, and it works. It's good. Don't get me wrong. But just to take it even, to the nth degree, that hue is just, and you'll feel it. Like I always say, experiment, because people should, not because we said it, but we put it out there, then everyone can kind of experiment and track their data and see the results. But then they're going to come back and go, oh my gosh, you weren't kidding, type of thing.
And that's why we call it one magic word, because when we started sharing it with people, I'd always go, wow, I hope that works for them. It never, ever not worked. The only time it didn't work is if they didn't try it. One time, and when we were living in LA, I was teaching at the college again for a while, and a guy came back to get his MBA. He was a player on the Lakers, superstar, and I won't mention his name. So he was off the rolls. He came back at night to get his MBA, and I was his counselor. And so when I walked in, sat down, and I said, so, what's your fear of not completing this program? What problematically, what's going on? He said, Mike, I play full time. He said, I got endorsements. I got a family. He said, the pressure is off the scale. And he said, I'm freaked out that I'm even here, but I always wanted to get my MBA. I said, all right, I got something for you. I said, whenever you're feeling that fear and anxiety comes in, I said, you just go, and he looked at me, then he bust out laughing. He said, Mike, I've got all these world-class problems and you've got me humming. And I said, hey, bro, I said, don't knock it till you try it. He's a professional sports figure. He said, hey, that's fair enough. Month goes by, fast forward. I go to see him again. He's waiting for me in the room. When I walk in, just to tease him before he can say anything, I said, have you been hewing? He said, Mike, not only have I been hewing, my family's hewing, and the coach of the team has started hewing, because he asked me, what are you doing differently? Your game is up a level, man. And he said, I gave him the hew. He said, well, hell, I'll try that. It works. It works all the time. Even skeptics, it doesn't matter. And it works. What's interesting is it works instantly. You can feel that vibration in your solar plexus area, and it just changes things. And really, it's kind of like your theme. It puts us in harmony with the love vibration. That's what it's really doing. It's like, how can I get in harmony with love? Because then I'm going to experience God. I'm going to experience the truth, whatever that is. And everybody's kind of seeking that in one way or another. And when we hew, we go in harmony with the love vibration, and it opens the door to everything that we could possibly imagine or want. So, yeah.
Okay. This is so good. This is so good. So, all right. So you hew, you hum out your hew, you exhale on hew, you breathe in and then exhale on hew for how long and how many times a day, or how do you do it? What's the magic formula?
No longer than 20 minutes. It's that powerful that you don't need more than 20. And if some people don't have a 20-minute window, they can do 4 5-minute sessions or 2 10-minute sessions. And then we also have hewing in a pinch. So you're having a moment, right? You're at work, the boss is chomping on you, or someone cuts you off in traffic. You can hew in a pinch as well to overcome those moments. You're about to perform, maybe you're about to speak, you're going into a meeting, you can hew right beforehand just to give yourself that edge, if you will, and to connect with your higher self. That the best version of you is what the hew gives you. The best version of you. Even working with clients with addiction, whether it's cigarettes or heroin or Doritos, I say, don't worry about it. Add the hew. Add the hew. And what happens is they come back and like, I'm not smoking as much. I want to bring my methadone dose down. And they've been on it for 8 years. This type of thing. That hew gets in there and it connects with your higher self vibrationally and turns you into your best version of yourself. And what happens is all those other things, they kind of loosen the grip. It's not as daunting. It becomes kind of easy. Oh, we're not arguing as much. I'm going to the gym more. I'm remembering my dreams. My nightmares have stopped. My sleep tracker data is excellent every single night. These are all actual comments over the years from people. I even gave it to a client. She has sleep paralysis, right? Whoa, awful. She was about to go in for a sleep study. We have our first session. I said, okay, that's all great. I said, next time it happens, and she has it like 2 or 3 times a week. And her husband's at the end of the bed and she can't even motion to him. Help. She's paralyzed, I said, next time it happens, I want you to think the word hew, because you're not going to be able to do it. I want you to think it. Think H-U. I said, I bet it's going to pull you right out. So we talked 1 week later, weekly session, She said it happened twice. She said, all I did was think the word hew. She said, you're right. It pulled me right out of sleep paralysis, Kim.
Wow.
It's unheard of. Yeah. That's how powerful this word is, coming again from the word human, God within man, which is, we're all humans. You see, it's like, so in tracking that data and doing that research, we have a new course coming out soon. It's not ready yet. It's called One Magic Word, Vibrational Sound Therapy. So exciting, because again, that user-friendly capability. It's like, how do you meditate while keeping your eyes open? You just think hew,
And for me, I knew it was the real deal when I didn't really care one way or another. I was headed down another path. But when I got back from Vietnam, it's like January of 1970. I was over there 68, 69, but it was all crazy. And I was in the infantry. So I had nightmares, horrible nightmares, wake up with a gun in my hand facing the door, and suicidal ideation a couple times a week, depression, anxiety, you name it. And I thought, well, maybe I need to go to the VA and get some meds, see a doctor, get a little therapy. Before I did that, I found the hue. And I started hewing on a daily basis. And within a very short period of time, all my anxiety symptoms, my depression, my suicidal ideation, the nightmares, they all lessened and eventually went away completely with the hue. Never saw a doc, never got the meds, never did any therapy. That was the therapy. That's why, like today, we call it one-step therapy. And it just instantly shift those vibrations. A couple of years ago, I was down outside of Guadalajara in Mexico. I got invited down to give a talk on dreams. Well, there was a fairly large audience, a couple hundred people or more, and I was starting to get nervous because, and I had 6 pages of notes on dreams. Like, how do I got an hour here with these people. How do I get the point across in the message? Just then a wind came up, took the 6 pages out of my hand, and they're floating high. They went higher and higher. And eventually, because several people in the audience jumped up and tried to grab them for me, there's 3 or 4 people chasing them. All the notes went over a wall surrounding the environment we were in. And so everybody went, they're gone, Mike. So, and this little voice inwardly, the little intuition whispered to me, come from the heart. And I'm thinking, easy for you to say, you're not here with hundreds of people. You're invisible. So what I did was I invited everyone. I spent 30 seconds demonstrating the hue, and I invited them to hue. And when we stopped hewing, a couple minutes later, all the vibrations had just shifted, and they were one of love. The love had come in, one of mellowness, love. I could speak easily. People were ready to hear the message. It shifted everything in a matter of a minute or 2. So that's how effective. I know the hue works, and it works immediately.
Kim, even we went skydiving once, for my birthday. Even before jumping out of that plane, I was up there hewing on the plane.
I would have been hewing getting on the plane. I would have been hewing the whole time on the plane, getting the backpack on. I would have been hewing. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But it worked, and you jumped out of the plane.
Yep.
Yeah. Good for you. That's awesome. Yeah. I don't know. I'm all about the hue, but I don't know that I'm all about jumping out the plane. That might not be happening. So this is something that it should be just a daily practice, like a regular thing that you incorporate into your life. Is hewing when you get up in the morning, before you go to bed at night, whenever it hits, whenever the opportunity is.
Yeah. And if someone has the ability, like in the shower or in the morning, like you said, or at lunchtime or before bed, depending on someone's schedule, and it's so user friendly. It's like, well, for me, and you don't need like 20 minutes and the yoga position and, silence. It's that user friendly for the busy mom, or, we need to put the kids to bed. Let's go. Come on. And then, it puts the kids out. I had a client, newborn baby, and here's her quote, her experience rather. She said, "It's like you gave me gold." She said, "Tyler, we've seen night and day improvement." He was only like 6 days old at this point. Night and day improvement with Tyler. And you gave me gold. And I've gotten sound sleep ever since. Like, yeah, and so with the babies, with the kids, with the unruly children, it's just, it's the real deal, and it's free. And that's the cool thing, things you can kind of tell, like dream signs and intuition, right? Those come within. Like, you don't have to pay a therapist to have a dream type of stuff, right? And the hue, well, that's a hue. There you go. these things are innate and they're free. And so if you were going to create us, like if you were God or spirit or, whatever the belief system for someone, and you were going to create all of us humans, initially and long ago, you would have done it in the most simplistic of ways. You would have done it so we can look within, and we don't need to go outward, to see this, to see the doc or the minister. And we have all these titles, it's like, no. It would seem like it would be a lot easier to access the good stuff,
It kind of reminds me when the Pharisees or whoever were trying to trip up Jesus, and they asked him where the kingdom of heaven was, and he said the kingdom of heaven is within, and they were like, what did he say? It's kind of like, they didn't know what to do with it. And it's, and the more I thought about it in my life, where would it or God or whatever you want, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, where would it hide the real truth in a simplistic, like Nicole says, in the simplest place? Within. Because no one looks within. I mean, we look in the mirror, but we don't really look within in our soul. We're always looking without. What's going on out here? Well, out here will keep us in chaos 24/7. And we need to take a deep breath. We need to hew. And in that silence within, we connect. And we're really connecting with love. That's why they say God is love. And I always wondered about that. What does that mean? Because I grew up a Catholic, studying with the nuns and then with the Jesuits for 4 years, private. And I would always ask them those questions. And they never really had the answers, because my favorite question was, if you open the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, the Word was God. I always asked the Jesuits. They all had PhDs. They were smart guys. I said, what was that word? And they went, wow, Mike, I don't know. I go, what are you doing all these years? What do you mean you don't know? Anyway.
Isn't it their job to know?
Yeah.
Right.
So, but that was it. It was hue. And that's when we eventually stumbled across it and found the hue. Hue is the word that created everything. And it's in the research, we found that it's what God or it or Holy Spirit calls itself, the name that it uses, Hugh. So whenever I run into God, I say, hey, yo, Hugh, what's happening? In my dreams. All right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so interesting. And I love it that you talk about science within it all, because there seems to be this battle for years, this battle between the spiritual and the scientific, between God and science. And I always think, well, God created science. So why is there this conflict? Why do we fight against things that are discovered and think it has to be one or the other?
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Yep.
It is both. It's always both. It's like they say, okay, let's do a when you die or the near-death experience. And, well, I went towards the light, da, da, da. And then science says, well, that's because the chemicals and da, 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 da. Well, it's both. It's not one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're in a physical body, right? We're on a physical plane. So you're going to have a physical response. But inwardly, as you're going towards the light, which is Holy Spirit, you're, because of the body, it's always going to be both. Just what you said. It is. And no matter how much we research and track our data, that's what we always find. Even in our book, it says Hugh, the one place where God and science actually meet. That's the name of one of the chapter titles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's
okay.
both.
So I'd love to talk about dreams, because I dream every night. I remember my dreams every day. And I know a lot of people who don't remember their dreams, whatever. And I've had some dreams that have been significant, and I know that they're different. And I know them like I just dreamt them. Like I remember every detail of them without writing it down. And they were things that were prophetic dreams, or like I had this incredible dream about my husband, with my husband after he passed away. And so I'd love for you to just kind of talk about dreams and what dreams are.
Okay. You want to go?
I'll just say a few words at the front end. And dreams are ancient. They go all the way back. So, like I mentioned earlier, historically, we find that everyone had dream advisors and everyone paid attention to their, even in terms of, should we go to war? Should we wait? Should we sidestep this battle? How's it going to, and people would have dreams showing them. And they're prophetic in that sense. But more importantly, we dream every night. And they used to say you only dream in theta. You only dream in, some people dream in delta state, the beta, the alpha, the theta, the delta, the different states of being awake or asleep. And that's not true. We dream really all the time. And, I've awakened sometimes and remembered 5 or 6 different dreams. And Nicole's remembered like 13 or 14. But we dream all night long. And we don't have the consciousness. That's the difference, the consciousness, the awareness when we wake up to pull the dreams, to remember them. And one of the reasons for that is some dreams come from a place when we sleep, we dream. When we dream, we actually leave the body in energy form. Some people would say soul form. Call it what you want. It's the same. We leave, our eternal self leaves and travels. And when we come back into the body and wake up, that dream is a travel log where we have been. And sometimes if we've been with a deceased relative, like you had mentioned, we're going to remember that dream. It's going to be probably pretty vivid for us. Other dreams, maybe we're traveling in distant star systems or a different dimension. When we bring it here, it's so different here in terms of the vibrations, we can't remember it. It won't harmonize with these vibrations. That's why we lose it. That's why we mentioned to people we should journal dreams, even if it's only a word or two. By doing that, it grounds it and it'll pull it back in. Because people think journaling, you're writing for memory. Not really. When we write it down, we ground it like electricity. You have to have positive, negative, and neutral. It grounds it and it pulls everything to us. It holds it. So dreams are really another reality, as important or more important than this reality. And they're really here to give us divine guidance and shed light on what's going on in our daily life. Like, whoa, you really want to know what's going on? Here you go. Pay attention to this dream. But they have been dissed. Dreams have gotten a bad title because they went through a period where if we have our dreams and if we have complete control and direction of our life, which we do, and we realize that through the dreams, what do we need authorities for? What do we need the experts for? We do not. And they know that. So it's a form of control. So dreams got really stuffed under the rug for a few thousand years. They used to be very important to ancient societies. Then for a couple thousand years, now they're starting to come back again. And people are realizing how important they truly are. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, yeah. I was all in listening to you. I was thinking St. Paul, St. Paul always mentions in the Bible, dying daily. And that's what you were talking about. When we sleep, we dream, we leave the body, dying daily. Because it's no different than dying. Your energy form, soul, leaves the body. And that's what happens when we sleep and dream. And St. Paul spoke of it like it was right, it was like common knowledge, like dying daily. And it wasn't a big deal, So, I mean, you could take it all the way and say no one even has to fear death because we do it all the time, leave the body in energy form. And that is how we can connect with our deceased loved ones. They're already in their energy form. And we if we're sleeping, have a, decent night's sleep, us too, we do that as well. Oh, and some people, they think, oh, I don't dream and I don't dream and I haven't dreamed. And it's just that they don't remember. And then, they think only in certain stages that you dream. But here's a good point. Have you ever been like this? You're kind of dozing off. I know some of the audience will, and then a little bit of a dream will come in and then you're kind of like, what? And you wake back up. And so just that fast, we start dreaming and leaving the body. And actually when this thing is the body, is soul coming back in, and it's a hard landing and realignment. So that's what that's what's going on when those things occur. But we start dreaming just that quick. So yeah, and every dream gives us some guidance, gives us an answer, gives us direction or a snapshot so we can sidestep adversity.
Yeah.
Just talking about it earlier, different dreams. Like Michael met me in a dream, 3 years before he met me out here. And then all the way to the basic, in working with clients for 25 years, lots of clients, all different genres and scenarios. And this one client, and he was considering going back to selling drugs, right? And it's a real struggle because there's a lot of money there, right? And he hasn't done it in a long time, and he's working and he's got a good living, but he was like wanting to get that edge, like maybe I could go do it for a month, like just to put some bank away, And here's what happened. So we have a session and he's telling me this. And then the very next day, his significant other says, you know what? I had a dream last night and you and the FBI were together and you were getting locked up. She didn't know his thoughts. He only told me. He didn't tell her. So how do you like that? The divine guidance came from her. Boom. The very next day, I had a dream. You're with the FBI getting locked up. Now, how do you like that for quick, instant, don't you dare go do that. You're going to end up. It was a major warning from spirit, Or for the atheist, let's just talk universe or higher self, because we work with lots of people of different faiths. And so we've managed to keep our language pretty germane, if you will, higher self, universe, God, Holy Spirit, whatever someone's comfortable with. Because the bottom line is that the guidance is coming from somewhere. And the wisdom is unparalleled, So anyway, yeah, that was a really cool story. And then, my other client just the other day, and we'll go back to dream. This is intuition, but she's driving down the highway. I just talked to her yesterday. She says, you know what happened? 3 days ago, I was driving down the highway and my inner voice, there was a car in front of me. It was kind of like weaving a little. And her inner voice said, stay away from that car. And so I slowed down. And the minute I did, he hit the wall on the expressway. Then his car shot across all the lanes on the highway and hit the other side, spun around. She's watching all of this. And her inner voice just 3 minutes prior said, get away from that car. She would have been all wrapped up in that accident, So it's like, it's that 24/7 access, autopilot. We call it our personal GPS system.
Yeah, which makes sense. So going into intuition, it's so interesting what you talk about when you're talking about dreams. Like I've never heard that the soul leaves the body. Like I've never heard that, but I've had those experiences where all of a sudden you feel like you're falling off the bed or whatever, right? And then right before you're going to hit the ground, you catch yourself, sort of that little doze that you talked about where all of a sudden it's like, oh, whatever. But very interesting. Yeah. But then, yes, then there's intuition. And yeah, go for it.
I just was going to go back to dreams a little bit, but okay, so tracking your data, and it's really, we used to think like only some dreams were prophetic, but then what with our data and stuff, we realized that you dream everything before it happens outwardly, because it's on the inner, and things happen on the inner, then they happen out here. Like even if you're going to create something, or even if you're going to cook dinner, you think of cooking dinner before you cook dinner. It happens on the inner before the outer, as does everything. All of our ideas and plans all happens on the inner.
Yeah, even the sewing machine. What's his name?
Elias Howell.
He had a dream of the sewing machine. And then he woke up and he started journaling it. And then came the sewing machine eventually, but it came from a dream. And even Einstein's theory, they used to believe before 100 years ago that light always went in from point to point, straight line. It never bends. Einstein drifts off in the middle of the afternoon. He'd do it all the time. 15 minutes later, he snaps up and he goes, wow, I saw this beam of light going toward the moon. And as it got close to the moon, it started bending around the gravitational field. And he said, wow, could light bend around gravitational fields? And of course, now we know it does. But that's where he got all his ideas. People don't realize that most of the great ideas that are here on the planet, if not all, have come from the inner, through dreams, through intuition, even through outwardly a waking dream, which we call signs, synchronicities, kismets, coincidence. But it's all there, like a bright city starting to light up. It was always there, except it looked dark because I was asleep. And that's why we share the hue, because the hue is the key. Because people would say, well, I don't use my intuition. I certainly don't remember my dreams. We give them the hue and it turns that system on. It just turns it on. It's the key. So that really works well. But yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. There is just something so incredible about the way we're designed, and then how limited we keep our lives, or how limiting we are to ourselves, and don't listen, or don't pay attention, or don't recognize that there's more than what we currently know, and just be open to learning new things, and be open to what it is that God has for you, whatever that happens to be. So very interesting. I mean, I'm thinking, probably the guy that created the Post-it and the, whatever it is, it probably started with a dream. What about dreams though that are like scary, like you're, a bad dream, you're running from somebody or whatever it is?
Okay. Bad dreams aren't really bad. Okay. They appear negative to catch our attention. It's like someone screaming at you, a nightmare type of thing. It's louder. So it catches our attention so we don't forget the dream, because the message is so important. So there really isn't a bad dream. Even people, they're like, oh, and the death dream and this dream. And I'm like, no, death is great. It's death of something old, typically, death of an old habit, an old way of looking at something, an old thought process to make way for the new. So a death dream is great. And I'll tell you something else. We're rarely going to see our own death or someone else's in a dream, because that's too much. That's overload. Holy Spirit is not going to put us through those types of things. You're rare. So death, is it your own or someone else's? Typically not. Maybe once in a blue moon. Yeah, but typically not. It's symbolic. Death of the old, make way for the new. The baby dream is the same thing. Now, maybe you're trying to get pregnant, and here's a key question. Let's give your audience some good pearls of wisdom here. You have a dream. Okay. The key question, you've got your symbols. The key question to ask yourself is, what was I thinking about yesterday? Mm-hmm. What was on my mind? What was the predominant thing that I was wondering about? And that's how you are going to clue yourself into what the dream message really is. So you go with the symbol. Let's say two people dream of water. One person loves scuba. The other person almost drowned a year ago. So for water, for that person, it means fear. And for the other person, it means joy or love. That's why a dream dictionary, no good, because we're unique. And every symbol is going to mean something different to each of us, depending on our relationship to the thing. So two people dream, of the water. One is fear, one is joy or love. So very different meanings within the dream. Mm-hmm. So the key for the listeners, for all of us, dream symbols. Quick word association. What does that thing mean to you? Boop. And then, what was on your mind yesterday? What are you really wondering about? What are you trying to figure out? And that will clue them in rapidly to what the message is. Mm-hmm. Now, there are themes, again, like death of the old, birth of the new. But generally you can, that's just a good rule of thumb to get people started. Oh, and then if they want, we have a free little dream course, a mini dream decoder course on our website. They can sign up for that too and get them rolling. But it's going to teach them the stuff we're talking about, mm-hmm. The hue, and for nightmares and insomnia, remembering your dreams, and like these types of tools that we're
Mhm.
talking about. So yeah, but every dream is a message of divine guidance, higher guidance. Every single one, no matter how silly, even if you can only remember one sentence, you can extract the message out of just one sentence. So
And that's really how Holy Spirit speaks to us, speaks with us, because everyone wants, wow, I'd really like to just talk to God and talk to Holy Spirit. Well, you can. Dream, signs, intuition. But it's already here. That's the language. And that it speaks softly, it speaks inwardly. And that is the divine guidance. But like you said earlier, most people are unawake, they're just not aware. So, and they miss
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to know, those moments when you happen to be in this one place at this one moment in time, and you run into somebody who also happens to be at this one place, and it's like the odds are not in your favor to be at this totally different city than either one of you live in, and whatever else, but you run into somebody. It's like a serendipitous sort of moment, or that's what it could be called. Are those truly serendipity, or what are those?
yes.
What's happening?
And you could call them serendipity, or Carl Jung worked on it his whole life, and he was missing some things, but he didn't have quantum physics. And it's a vibrational thing. It's a vibrational thing. And it's mechanically, it's controlled. Those moments where we run into someone, like I was in Saigon. I didn't even have my uniform on when I was in Vietnam, took it off and was walking down the street in civilian clothes for a day. And I heard somebody yell my name, "Hey, Mike." I didn't even turn around. I said, "BS, come on now. I don't know anybody in Saigon." And the person caught up with me, and it was a guy I played poker with in undergraduate school. What are the odds? I said, and he said, "Hey, man, it's the way it is. Life is life." Anyway, the point is, it's a vibration. It's controlled by like attracts like, which you're familiar with. Like attracts like. What's it called?
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction. And
Mhm.
in that moment, we have a vibrational connection with that event or that person or that thing that connects us. And so we're on a similar vibe. Maybe the vibe is 6.2599995, and it goes on. And that's the vibration. We got real close. Boom, it comes to us like a magnet. And it really, really comes to it. That's how we manifest things. We hold that vibration and we see it, feel it, and it just brings it to us very quickly. That's how it happened. Yeah.
Ooh. I
Okay.
want to add something. Okay. Okay. So that's like the scientific process, right? The law of vibration and attraction, and we're vibrating at a certain rate and frequency. And so is something else that we want in our lives, or another person. And so then you run into them in Saigon or what have you. But let's take it one step further. There is a message for you. So you said serendipity or serendipitous moment. Yes. And how do you know there's a message? Okay, here we go. Because some people take it too far. And it's like, oh, my shoe's untied. Like, oh, there's there a message? No. This is real. This is real simple and common sense. It's all based on common sense. Okay. So we have something, whether we run into the person or here, I'll give you an example. A friend of ours, this is when we were living in Phoenix, and she was in Ahwatukee, right down the street. And she wakes up and her palm tree is laying down in their front yard. The palm tree, boop. There was no wind. She's like, "Nicole, what do you think this means?" I said, "Well, I think your life's about to be uprooted." It doesn't mean a bad thing, but that's probably the message. Okay, a month later, her husband gets a promotion and they move across the country. Boop. Okay, so that's how that played out. But let's back it up. So something bizarre that catches your attention because it's so odd. That's how you know there's a message.
Mhm.
If it's a coincidence, which means like two occurring events of similar proportion, a coincidence, or so bizarre it catches your attention, there's a message therein with either one.
Mhm.
If it's like my shoe's untied, no. Totally bizarre and odd, or a coincidence. So someone running into somebody quantumly and vibrationally, that's how that happens. But then there's also a message, maybe that person has a message for you, or maybe they're going to say, oh my God, we just got an opening at work and you'd be perfect. I mean, who knows what the deal is, but, so yeah, a message and then the vibrations, both are at play. So
it's so interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm sure everybody has stories, right?
Right.
Might not recognize what the stories are about or the message within the story, but everybody's got stories where they, happen to be in an airport far away and ran into somebody, that they hadn't seen in years, or whatever it happens to be. Or, I was thinking about, I rented an Airbnb a year and a half ago. My son was graduating from med school. And so my family, we went and stayed at this Airbnb. And when I did, I tend to be an obsessive planner in a way. Like, I want to make sure that we're getting the best one. Like, I want to look and look and look, but I kept being drawn back to this one and drawn back to this one and drawn back to this one. And it ended up being just such a great place to stay. But the other thing that happened is I ended up dating the guy that owned the house. And I'm not now, but I did for a hot minute. And so, I don't know if there's something to that or nothing to that, but
wow.
You were feeling that inner vibe that attracted you. Yep. There it is.
And I mean, we certainly don't have time, nor is it, but like if you and I were like talking, I'd be able to figure out the message. I'd be able to figure out, why that occurrence happened. But simply put, there was something that occurred within that relationship karmatically that needed to occur. So, without us getting into it, whatever, but just to take it one step further, there's always a reason, and it's always for our betterment. So maybe, here we go. You gave him a pearl of wisdom that he had never contemplated before. And that could have been the whole purpose for your meeting. He needed to hear something to awaken his world or his reality. Maybe you gave him, like I said, a pearl of wisdom about something. Or vice versa, only you would know that because you were intimately there. But it's always something, there's always an exchange that's required, and for one or both of our betterments, so.
And vibrations are what mechanically control it to pull us together, like attracts like. And everything's a vibration. If you start reading quantum, it'll tell you at the front end, everything else is an illusion. You can believe it because you see it. But that couch, if you could see the couch at the quantum level, and it's invisible, put your hand right through it. Everything vibrates at a certain rate. That's it. That's all there is. So the vibrations control the game. That's why we do the hue a lot, because it shifts the vibrations like a gear and puts us in harmony with the expanded self or divine guidance self.
Don't you love it when the phone rings? It must be divine guidance, the divine action that the phone rang, whoever's on the other end of the phone, right?
You got it?
Well, that is so interesting. It is, it makes me feel better to tell you what I'm thinking. It makes me feel better about some of the dates that I've been on, and I've stayed maybe a little too long in a relationship, right? And then wondered why I ever did. And so, I like the idea that there was something good that came out of that there was a reason that it all happened, and
absolutely,
whatever that happens to be.
Always. Yes. Oh, yes. I think that's why, in talking with clients for 25 years, it's just my favorite thing. People are like, aren't you sick of talking? I'm like, no, because it's like figuring out the puzzle, like the this and the that and that. And I've got people from even 15 years ago. It's like, they'll still call like, it's just, life is really cool when you when you take things to another level. Here's the thing. If someone ever says same shit, different day, I know they are asleep. They are so asleep. It's never same shit, different day, ever. It's all
there's always the moment. And in that moment, you've got that dream signs intuition. It suddenly lights up like a game, like, ooh, what was that?
Mhm.
I mean, it's really
Mhm.
fun. It's to
Wow.
enjoy and watch and engage in.
Ooh,
And
ooh,
before that, kind of
yeah.
asleep.
There's it's a quote on the back of the book, whatever. Anyway, for couples, and yes, like a game or a puzzle, and gaming is huge. She said it repairs relationships. It's like we're on the same team, cracking the code. That's what she said.
Mhm.
Because, and as historically, the families would get together and they'd call it family dream time. And in the morning, they'd sit at the table and they'd all share their dreams and interpret and decode the dreams. But it's for the betterment of the family or each person, so they don't get blindsided, tomorrow type of thing, or making better choices. So when you start in a relationship and you start like reading a spiritual book out loud every day, a little piece, you and your mate, or you start doing dreams together, and it is the puzzle and the bonding, and it brings together the forces and cracking that code. Yes. Otherwise it's like we're on different sides almost. So you've got to find that common piece to bring us together, So, and there's no one better to interpret each other's dreams than within the family unit or within the relationship unit, because you usually are privy to what's going on. Like, well, he's trying to find a job and he had this dream. It means don't take that job, But if you're talking to a stranger, well, a stranger doesn't have that insight, And I think that's, as a psychologist and working with the clients, I'm privy to everything. So, when we use our tools in sessions, it's lightning fast. You could talk it through for a year, where you could share a dream and the message from that dream, and it's solved in 5 minutes, Kim. I shit you not, just that quick. So
Wow.
those tools, they're the shortcut. Yeah. So I hope people start, using the tools. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And now we've kind of gone over time. I've taken so much of your time. I could talk to you guys forever. Like, this has been so interesting and so motivating and fulfilling and loving and a lot of different things. So how can people tell again how people can find you?
You got it. Dr. Nick and Mike Sebastian, the Dream Team. And you can go to the website, which we are getting a new website, but divineguidanceinstitute.org, new nonprofit, Divine Guidance Institute. They can get a hold of us. They could, we have our books, do it yourself, donate to the nonprofit. There's also a free dream decoder course. They can sign up for that and get on the newsletter, Yep. So with the new nonprofit, we're just building everything because it's a modern day mystery school is what it is. So we're just now it's really kind of exciting. We're building all the classes, dreams and signs and intuition and quantum physics, vibrations, spiritual coupling, wellness, boom, 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 boom. One magic word, vibrational sound therapy. So it's going to be huge. Right now, the free Dream Decoder class to get them rolling in the newsletter while we work on the inner parts of the modern day mystery school. But yeah, one magic word, that course will be out pretty soon. So, So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And I encourage you to look them up. Nick and Mike, this has been so great. And I hope that we talk again very soon. I think we're meant to be in the same vibration, hanging out together. So I love that. And so thank you for joining us. And until next time, be blessed.